Good morning, everybody. Carmen here with Quality Sewing, and today we are going to make a zippered pouch in the hoop of our embroidery machine. So I always find these projects super fun. They always make me think because I don't always trust the instructions. I'm like, are you sure if I do this, it's gonna work out? So today we are going to go step by step through, and we are going to make one of these four-season tapestry zipper bags. You can see there's like 4 different designs in here, but the entire thing is built inside the hoop. So we are gonna go through the different projects here, and then at the very end here, I have one that's ready for us to flip around so you can see how that process goes, and you can see the finished project. So we will just get started here. The things that I have to sort of get myself ready is I have, obviously I picked a design collection. There are lots of different in the hoop projects, and a lot of them work in this same way. And following the instructions is actually, I think, the most important thing with these in the hoop projects. Really reading the instructions and following them. I tend to be one of those people that's sort of like, oh yeah, I've done this before. I'm just gonna sort of do it. Well, I find with these projects, this is the time that's when I miss like the critical step, and all of a sudden something doesn't work out right. So for me, all of the different embroidery design collections that are in the hoop projects, a lot of them come like this one where the designs are on the CD, but so are a PDF of the instructions. The other way they come is where everything is loaded on a USB stick, and then the project instructions are on a PDF on that USB stick, or if you've downloaded the design off of a website, then there's usually, once again, a PDF with instructions. So for the purpose of this, if I was at home, I would probably just look at the instructions on my cell phone, right? Or on my tablet, something like that. I might not really print them, but if you want, you can print them. So for the purpose of today, I've actually printed these instructions. And OESD, which is who makes the Scissors Tail Stitches designs, they do a beautiful job digitizing their embroidery designs, but they also do an excellent job with their instructions, which I think is just as important. So you can see here, for each of the designs, it shows us what it's gonna look like, how many color changes they are, and what the function of each of those color changes is, which is really helpful. And then it also then goes through like what materials we're going to need. So it says we need stabilizers, right? We need a lightweight tearaway, which I have here. I'm using the Floriani tearaway today. It says we need a fusible woven. So I'm using Power Mesh. I almost called it no-show mesh because that used to be what this product was called by Floriani, and now it is Power Mesh. I'm using Power Mesh Fusible. And then the other thing it's telling me is which fabrics I'm going to need. Sorry, I just had it too far away for me to grab. And I'm using some different fat quarters. So like a lot of times when they say, oh, you need 2 different fat quarters, well, that doesn't mean you have to use a fat quarter. You could use some fabric from your stash. There's lots of different things, but that's about how much fabric you're going to need. And you only need 2 fat quarters. I was obviously into purple. My pouch is purple. We do it with lots of purple fat quarters. And then it's also recommending some different notions and tools that you might need, like we're gonna use the RNK Stitch to Perfection tape. We're gonna use the OESD turning tool. For the ironing, I've already done most of my ironing, but for the ironing that you would do, you might wanna use a pressing cloth. You're gonna need something to iron on, that sort of thing. It's here, and then it obviously says we need thread. So I have a full selection of thread there. I really love thread sets. That is a Simplicity, I think it's a Brother thread set there. But I love thread sets that have a variety of colors, because then when I sit down and work on a project, I don't have to think too hard. I have a nice variety of threads all ready to go, and I can just pick which one is going to work well with the design and with my fabric, because I don't always follow the color choices exactly to what the design collection says. Sometimes I do, but sometimes I'm gonna do something totally different. And so for like this project, for instance, if you're making these zipper pouches, you're gonna pick colors that work well with your background fabric. Okay, so then next, we go right here and it tells us we need to cut out our fabric, okay? And I have already pre-cut out the fabric, and I have got it all ready for us, because for the for the speed of this presentation, if I was gonna cut it all in front of you, it would take a really long time. So we're doing a couple different things to try to get through this in a more timely manner to get you the idea. So you can see here that it tells me that I need to cut out my outer fabric, okay? So I have cut it out and I folded it. And for my outer fabric, I also have that power mesh stabilizer in there on one side here. So you can see I have it in here. I've already ironed it per their directions. And I have this power mesh. And I want to just show you a hack here, and I'm sure you've done this before, but my power mesh roll was almost to the very end, right? And so I had a couple of little strips left. And so what I did is I put them together on here, and this is totally acceptable. It doesn't have to be one sheet because we want to use all of our materials, right? Sometimes depending on the project, you might need it to be, oh, it has to be one sheet. But like in this case, it's going to be just fine if I have it like this. Okay, so, and this is actually not supposed to be folded. That should be flat like that. Okay, so we have our top pieces and then we have our lining pieces, and I have all pre-cut out per the specifications, and I have ironed them and folded them. And the way that this power mesh stabilizer, the fusible, attaches to the fabric is with an iron. It goes on really easily, and so I cut my pieces to match the sizes of my fabric that they had me cut, and I ironed them on. And then I also have my little zipper here ready. And this project needs a zipper, and you just want to make sure that it is a polyester or nylon zipper, no metal zippers, because you don't want, at some point it is going to sew over this, and metal would not work out super well with your needle. So those are all of the things that we need. So the very first thing it tells me here, right, is that here it's telling me about all of that pressing, putting on the fusible. And then the next step is hoop one layer of lightweight tearaway. And you can see that it has all of these step-by-step instructions with all of these pictures, which I love. So we are gonna get started here. I have my machine over here, and I have already put this design in my memory. So here's my whole machine. If it was on my USB stick, which is a lot of times how I would have transferred it from my computer onto my USB stick, it would be here. But I've already saved it into my memory of my machine, so I'm gonna select it here. Perfect, and then I'm just gonna go to embroidery. And then it has each of the colors here. Now I am gonna cheat a little bit, and we're just gonna use the same color for the first three because we wanna go more quickly here. So we're gonna start, and this first stitch here is it's giving me the lines so I can attach my zipper. I can lay the zipper down to where it's going to be placed. So it's giving me guidance about where I'm going to be putting this. So it's just gonna put those stitches down there for me. I'm gonna grab my tape, grab my zipper, because I'm gonna need these next. So I'm gonna get prepared. Oh, and let me just help this little machine out here. Needle up. Just need to rethread it. Now look how cool this needle threader is on this machine. I just go like this and whoop, needle threaded for me. How awesome is that? Okay, we're gonna start again here. Okay, and then now I am going to want to place my zipper, okay? And I want to place it right here, pretty close in the middle, but I want to make sure that the metal points, which would be like this end here and this, the zipper pull itself, I want to make sure that they are beyond my marking points, okay? Because that is going to keep it, you can see the zipper is going to be a little bit bigger. We're just going to trim it off at the end, so we don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to just tack this guy here that way, and then I'm going to tack it down here, and I have it right in line with it here, and then I am just going to hit go again, and it did have color changes here. First it said black, and now it says magenta, and I'm just using magenta for this again, which is going to be just fine. And then it's going to tack my zipper down. So So it's gonna tack one side and then it's gonna tack the other side. Just like that. Okay, and then once it's done, I'm gonna remove my tape. I'm gonna set this tape here because I might use it again in a little bit. There's a lot of things that we're gonna be tacking down, but I do always remove my tape as I go because I don't wanna accidentally get a whole bunch of tape like sewn into the project. Okay, so then the next thing we need here is we are going to attach our, and it tells us right here in the instructions, and this is what I mean about like reading the instructions, because it's like, place the folded edge of the top and bottom front panels, okay? Because we have an inside out, we have outer panels that are gonna be the outside, right? We have front panels, and then we also have lining. So if you've picked lots of different colors, you wanna make sure you're picking the right pieces, if that makes sense, because otherwise it might still look totally fine. I've done it before where you put the wrong color in wear and you get a mismatched panel piece, and not the end of the world, right? Still probably really fun, but if you follow the instructions, then it'll come out exactly as you want to. So the key element here is making sure, eventually this will be our finished side, right? So we naturally then, that means that we need our folded edge to be going up against the zipper, not our raw edge, because otherwise it just wouldn't look that good, right? It wouldn't look finished. And it tells us that in the instructions, but I always like to think about like, why does that make sense? Because when I understand why it makes sense, it also means that next time I might not need to look at the instructions as much. And then also I'm less likely to mess up on a pattern that maybe doesn't have as good of instructions, right? Because some of the designs, they don't give you as good of instructions. OESD does an excellent job, which is amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna lay these guys down, and it says, you know, sort of center it there on that line, right? You're just gonna go over a little bit and nestle it up against the teeth of that zipper, but you don't wanna cover the teeth, okay? So then here comes in that tape again, and I'm gonna tape this guy down here and here. And then I'm gonna do the same thing here with that edge, and I'm going to center it and get it close to the edge, you know, close to those teeth, but not covering the teeth. Because as you imagine, what would happen if we covered the teeth of our zipper? We might not be able to get in there, and that might not work out for us. So the other thing that I learned doing the first one is it's really important on some of these to get all the four corners down, so that way you don't accidentally grab a corner and have it flip and, you know, do something that we don't want it to do. So I'm gonna go all the way down here, and I'm gonna just grab all four of these corners, and you wanna make sure that it is flat, right? You wouldn't wanna tack it where like this was sort of bunchy like that, because then it would stitch bunchy. So you wanna make sure this is as flat as possible, and it's, you know, there's not any, not too much movement in your fabric, right? Because that's gonna just help it work better. Okay, so now we are gonna do, and you can see here, it's showing me, what's great about these machines is they show us what it's doing, right? You can see now it's gonna do an outline of the zipper pouch. So we'll get it started here.
Jackie's asking, where can she get the instructions?
So the instructions are going to come when you get the embroidery design. So for instance, for this one, like we sell these in our store locations and on our website, and this design comes with a PDF in the file. So like if you were to put this disc in your computer, it's going to have tons of different embroidery files, all the different versions, right? So it has PES, PCS, VIP, and the list goes on, right? All of the different types of embroidery files, but then also there's one file that is a PDF that has the instructions, and then you can either print the instructions out if you want a paper copy, or you can view that PDF on your phone, or on your tablet, or on your computer, and use it to follow along. And like OESD has all of their instructions actually right on their webpage as well, with the design collection. Okay, so there you go, it's zipping around there. And I'm gonna keep going as it tacks this down. Voila. Okay, we're gonna take off our tape here and I'm gonna put it out here and save it. We're gonna need it in a little bit. Now the next part of this particular embroidery design actually takes a fair bit of time. And so what I am going to do for the fun of it is we're gonna start one of the colors so you can sort of get an idea, but then we're gonna pause it because you can see here that this whole design actually takes a total of 56 minutes. We're not gonna embroider all of it because that would be too long. So I'm gonna let you see what I mean by it's going to do all of the design work, right? What it would do next is all of this fun stitching. I'm gonna do one line of it and I'm just gonna start it here and we're just gonna go for it. We're gonna do one line of that stitching so you sort of get the idea and I can sort of show you how it would, and then we're gonna go through the rest of the assembly of this so you can see how that part works. But this is the fun part. Like in a minute here when we do the flip on this guy and you get to see all the fun stitching, it's so fun how this guy stitches, but you can see like what it does is it goes through and it does all of this beautiful decorative stitching, right? It's gonna go through, and that's what takes time in this design. It's not these outlines. What takes time is all of the beautiful decorative stitching that it adds to the outside of this pouch. And what I love about this particular design collection is the stitching looks like it could be like hand done or something, right? Because it's these wide, really beautiful, fun. It has such great texture, right? So, we'll let it finish to here and then we'll pause it and then we're just gonna forward our colors onto where I want us to go so we can see how it comes together. But I want to make sure you understand what I mean by like we're just going to skip this section for right now and then also just sort of see how it works. So it's going to, because this is the very front of our pouch.
Diane said she came in late and wants to know the name of the design collection.
Yes, hi Diane, welcome. So this is the 4-season tapestry zipper bags collection from Scissor Tail Stitches, which is also OESD, and it has 4 different pouch patterns on here. So we are just going to cut our threads here so our needle comes up, and then we are just going to go down here. This is what's so cool on these machines, because there's actually times where like maybe I'm doing an embroidery design and I actually don't want all of the colors. Like I don't want some part of it and I will just omit that section, right? You totally have the ability to do that because this is your creative, however you want this to look, right? In this case, we're doing it from time, right? This would be 15 minutes of just one color, so we're gonna forward through it. So I go down here to the plus minus stitching, and almost all machines, all embroidery machines are gonna have something like this, and I am just gonna forward through my colors, and you can see them change here, and you can see it's really clear that, yep, it's doing decorative stitching still. Yep, more decorative stitching as I forward through this. More decorative stitching, you can see there's a lot of decorative stitching, lots and lots of decorative stitching. Here we got one more thing of decorative stitching. Okay, now, these last 1 minute each are when we actually work on the rest of the completion of the in the hoop bag, right? Not just the decorative part. So we are going to pretend that this is now beautifully stitched, right? We have all this gorgeous stitching on the top, and now we're ready to move on to the next section. So once again here, great instructions. So this is where it gets sort of interesting, right? Because this is how it would look normally. You'd have all the decorative stitches on top here. Everything is done. Then we are actually going to take the hoop out and we are going to put fabric on the back of the hoop, okay? So we're going to pull this hoop out here. And I'm going to get rid of this tape because like I said, we don't want to have tape that we stitch in there. And I'm going to make myself a little space here. Now, whenever you're working on the back of the hoop like this, you want to make sure that you don't like push a whole bunch, right? Because if you push a whole bunch, you could start pulling that stabilizer and manipulating it in a way that would not keep it lined up perfectly. So you want to be very gentle in this process. And so it tells us flip this over and on the back of the hoop, locate the zipper lines, right? And these were the 2 zipper lines, this line here and this line there. Those were the 2 zipper lines. And if we had used all different colors, the way it's suggested, you would see those. I have no problem just knowing those are my zipper lines, right? My zipper's right in the middle here. And then we are going to take our lining pieces here. Now, I didn't mention this earlier, but the lining pieces don't have that no-show mesh in there. And the reason why the lining pieces, can anyone guess why the lining pieces don't need the no-show mesh? It's because they weren't going to have that big density of embroidery designs on top of it. They don't need the extra stabilization because it would make it feel even thicker, right? So we don't need the stabilization in the linings. We're not going to be doing any big embroidery on it. The reason why the front pieces needed that stabilization was so it would lay flat while it was doing a ton of all those beautiful decorative stitches on there. And that's what keeps them pretty. So sometimes if you're doing embroidery and it is just not working well, it's looking bad, sometimes it's because you just need more stabilization. Because when your fabric starts, when the embroidery designs are heavy and there's not enough stabilization, it sort of like sucks everything in because it's not able to keep that fabric flat, right? And so that would be a sign that you might need more stabilizer. And that's the beauty of using one of these products like this no-show mesh, power mesh. They just changed the name of it like a year ago. I'm getting there. The power mesh, because it moves like fabric, right? But it adds this really lovely stabilization to our cotton fabrics, and then it adheres to it so it's not shifting and sliding. Okay, so let's get these guys on here. So we're gonna do the same thing we did before. We're gonna go just above the line, and once again, we wanna make sure that we have the folded edge in, and we're gonna get our tape here. And we're going to tape this down. Now this is where it's super critical that you get these four corners, because this is on the back of your embroidery machine, right? And if it's sliding back and forth, if these aren't done, it's really easy for this to flip up and over and have it get stitched in. And that is not what we're looking for. So you want to make sure you get all of these corners down.
So Dawn's asking, what adjustments do you need to make if your bobbin thread shows on top?
If your bobbin thread shows on top, that is usually something with your upper tension. So the first thing I would do is I would rethread your machine. First I would pull all the thread out. I would blow out the tension discs and make sure there's not like some like dust or lint or any of that fun stuff that happens since we are in a textile, right? It's textiles, it's a little fuzzy. Make sure there's nothing in there that's, not making your tension quite right. And I would also change your needle and then rethread the machine and see if that resolves it. Because if not, then you might need to adjust your upper tension. Because traditionally your, it actually might be your bobbin tension, now that I think about this. But the first thing I would do is do all of the basics, which is unthread everything, take your bobbin out, put your bobbin back in, check the weight of your bobbin thread, all of those things, and make sure that all of those are working well. You really shouldn't be getting your bobbin thread coming up to the top. Okay, so here we go. We have this all pretty much ready here, so I'm going to, even though I have a couple more corners, don't I? Where did I put my tape? Here's my pink tape. You think, how do I lose the hot pink tape? But I do. Okay, let's think here. Okay. And then the other thing, back to that embroidery tip for if your bobbin thread is coming up, make sure you're using a good embroidery bobbin weight of bobbin thread, right? Like I love the pre-wound bobbins because of the right weight, and they're nice and light. If you have a really heavy thread or a really, really light thread in there, that can affect whether or not it's gonna pull up as well. So those are the things I would try. Okay, so let's see here. We're gonna flip this over. Gonna lay this guy on here. Okay, and then we are gonna do this, get that guy tacked down there. So away it goes. Oh, my thread needs some help. But I love how the machines tell us, like right away, hey, check and rethread your upper thread. Something's not quite right. So we just rethread real easy, bring it back down. We use that amazing automatic needle threader, which does the work for me. And then if I was worried that I had missed some stitches, this is where I could go back like 10 stitches or something and say, okay, let's start again, go down, and then give it get it started again.
So Carmen, can you tell them again what kind of tape you're using today?
Yeah, today I am using the Floriani Embroidery Perfection tape. There are a couple of different tapes out there. OESD actually makes a nice one too that's also a wash away tape that you can use like this. And they have a tear away tape as well. But yes, I am using just these tapes. What's nice about all of these tapes is they're not too sticky. Because I don't know if you've noticed that like I'm able to like pull them back up and flip them back down. You know, I don't know if any of you were like art students, but like when we were art students, we always would take masking tape and then we would like have to like attach it to our jeans and make it not too sticky and then use it on our projects. This tape has been designed for crafting, so that way you don't have to, so that way it's not too sticky, if that makes sense. Like it works well for our projects. Okay, so it's just doing that outlining. You can sort of see here once again, it's just doing that outline. It's just tacking down basically the back, which is going to be our lining, okay? Great, now it is done. And so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to pull this out and I'm going to get rid of that tape because I don't want it to, right? You can sort of see that some of it has already like smushed on my machine, but I wouldn't want this to like get into anything else. So you can see here that it tacked all that down for me. And I'm gonna get all this tape off here. Gently, there we go. Okay, and then we are going to get our back fabric on here. So we're gonna go like this, and then this is our back fabric. Now the key with this one is that since this is the front of our pouch, we need this right sides together. Because if we did it like this, then the back of our pouch would look like that, and that would not be awesome. So we are going to line this up here, and we really want it to cover everything. Now, let's make sure I haven't missed a step because I'm pretty sure that there's a step in here. Yes, yeah, I almost missed it, you guys. And this is a huge one. Unzip the zipper halfway. Not all the way, just halfway. So we're gonna need to be able to get back into this pouch to flip it all the way around. And if we leave our zipper totally the way I have it right here, I'm not gonna be able to get in there. I'm gonna be totally, I have to do a whole bunch of seam ripping. So we're gonna pull this zipper down halfway. Get it down here, it's stuck on a little, here, let me get rid of. So this would be the other thing, I've got scissors somewhere, cut your jump threads, right? Because I've got these little hanging out tails and the zipper is catching on them. So I'm just gonna snip them there because then my zipper, when it's not catching on those, opens no problem. So this is, you know, they say right here, note, this is the most important step in the whole project. But be mindful to unzip halfway. So they've tried to really highlight it, right? But you saw what I did. I was like, oh, I think I'm good. Let's just go on to here, right? Happens to all of us, so read those instructions. Okay, so here we go. So now we have that unzipped halfway. Now we can lay this guy down here, just like this. And we're gonna use some tape. I sort of like jammed all my tape together. So we're gonna grab some new tape. And we're gonna tack this down in our four corners. Okay, and then I'm gonna lower my pressure foot and it's gonna go through and just do the outline of this entire pouch. And sometimes, like if I was, you know, you can sort of see how this is like bubbling a little bit. I might pause it and make sure that I really have it. You can always pause it if you start feeling like the way you've laid it down isn't quite right, and like readjust it and make sure that it's not like it's shifting in some way that's not maybe gonna work out. See right there where it goes over the hard part of the zipper? If that was metal, probably wouldn't you don't think your needle would like it. So it's going here. We are almost through, you guys. We only have one more layer to stitch, and then we're gonna see the magic happen here. Is anybody else right now thinking, how do you actually flip this around? How is this really going to work? This is what I think every time I do these projects. Like, I don't always try. I'm like, are you sure, instructions? Is this really gonna work? It works, but I'm always a little bit suspicious. And I think it's just because we're not used to doing, it's so different than if you were building it yourself, right? But what's so slick is it's all done for you, and you don't have to do the work. Okay. So we are gonna do one more piece of fabric here. We're gonna put the outer, the outside back on the back. So we're gonna flip it over here, and yet again, we're not gonna take it out of the hoop, but we are going to lay this guy down and try to cover all of the fabric here.
And are those right sides together?
These are right sides together again, yeah, because you can see everything needs to be right side, so we're gonna do 2 flips in a minute to get this going the right direction so we can see it all done. Okay. Okay, so then that is all there, and this is, like I said before, really important you get these 4 corners. Okay, because otherwise, if you just had it tacked here and here as it's going sliding on the back of your machine, this is the back of your embroidery hoop, this is likely to flip over. So you want to get those, that's what you need to have stable. If you're really worried, you could always tack more places, a little extra hay tape, it's not going to hurt anything. Okay, slide this guy on. We are going to do the last color here. And this is just going to do the outline. And this right here is where you can see that this is gonna work out, because you see it's leaving an opening, so you're gonna have one, on that back layer, we're gonna have an access point when this finishes embroidering. So this whole thing finishes doing this. And if you want, we can work on, shall I see how are we doing on time? Okay, we're doing okay. This is gonna go all the way around here. And then we pull it out of the hoop and we tear away the stabilizer and we trim around the edges, okay? You trim around the edges, okay? So we've trimmed around the edges, and then the other thing that we're gonna wanna do is it tells you to trim, you know, about 1/4 of an inch around. I'm using some really nice Kai scissors because they are very sharp, and this is really thick. Okay, so you want to trim about 1/4 of an inch. You also want to put a little snip here, and you want to put a little snip here, okay? And the other thing is right here, these corners, because these corners are so thick, anywhere where there's a corner, I would do some little snips like this as well, okay? Which I've already actually done on this guy, but you would just go through and do little snips on any of these any of the places where we're churning, so it's gonna help it churn out better because this guy is so thick. So we're gonna do that. This guy is finishing up here. And so all you do, like I said, is we just pull this part out. You're gonna bust him out like this, right? And this is where you can see we do have one little opening right there. And you would, like I said, tear away the stabilizer, and then you're gonna trim it and get it to this part. And then this is where it starts getting fun. I mean, this has been fun the whole time, right? And then it's easier. You want to try to do your best to not distort the fabric as you flip this around. So you're going to grab this corner and pull it through. We're going to flip this twice, so don't be worried that you don't see the beautiful stitching on this first turn, because this is actually just for flipping out to the lining. So, you know, and this is a process. Just take your time. You know, don't get anxious that you have to do it quickly.
So a question came in.
Yeah.
And it asked, if you were really adventurous, could you combine the last 2 stitching steps together so that you don't have so many seams?
I think you could. Well, no, you couldn't. And this is why. The reason, if you combined them both together, I'm going to leave this up here. Here, let's just forward real quick to that last stitch. So we can look at the last 2 stitches, because that's a really good question. That's 100% something I would do, because I'm like super impatient. And like, can't we just get this done faster? So let's just go here. We're almost there. Forward through. Okay, so the last 2 stitches, this is the last stitch. It's actually completely sealing the top to the other, the 2 top sides, right? The back and the front, but the 2 outside layers, the outer layers, it's sealing those together. And then the second one, it has the opening. So if you just did one or the other, you're either gonna have 2 spots that now have openings or 2 that are closed and you won't be able to turn it. So no, so that you do need to do them in order. Okay, so now we have this guy here. And normally if I was doing this, the things that are gonna help if you're trying to flip this guy around is a turning tool like this. This is the OESD, here, I've got it right here. And what do they call it? They call it the Expert Point and Press Tool. There's a couple different versions of this on the market, but you notice that it has like a one ball end that's a sort of larger and one that's smaller. And this is great for like getting in there and pushing out corners, right? Because it has the ball, so you're not gonna like shove it through, right? And put a hole in there. But you're gonna go through and you would shove this out as much as you can. And then the other thing that I would do if I was at home is I would have an iron set up, right? And I would iron this really, really well. So that way it is more together. So then the next thing we're gonna do, this is where that zipper comes in, is I'm just gonna grab my scissors here and I'm just gonna sort of gently open up my tearaway, okay? And here's that zipper, right? Oh goodness, thank goodness this was open, right? If my zipper had been out here, we would be in sad shape. So instead now, if I want, I can open my zipper a little bit more by sliding it backwards, or you can just start flipping this guy over. That stabilizer, we could tear it all away, right? It's all tear away. And I think, there we go, open the zipper more. Make it easy on myself. So this is where you get to see the prettiness of all the stitches that I did ahead of time. Because I didn't want to, this has already been almost a 40-minute presentation. Imagine if I stitched out all 56 minutes. But I wanted to show you how fun this is. So there's a couple of things here, right? This inside line, you can, if you want to seal this shut, right? All you do is you flip this here and you would flip this here and you could go to your regular sewing machine, right? And you would just tack that guy down and you can just follow that line that is already there, right? You would just tack it down so you don't have a hole on the inside of your pouch. But then when you flip this all over and around, and this is really where, once again, I'm using my fingers, but using my little tools here to help get all of my edges out is going to be really helpful. And this is one of those things that takes, like I said, just a little bit of time, and then you would want to iron it. And of course, all this stabilizer here, see, I'm just going to pull that out and rip this stabilizer, because obviously we don't want that white line in here. And then, voila! Look, and there's a couple little threads here, right? This would be the normal cleanup. Is just, we're going to snip all of our jump stitches. So that way they're not in our way, not, But then, voila, look at my cute little pouch. And that was all done in the hoop on the machine. So I think these are great little projects. I think what you can't really see, but maybe you could tell from how it felt when I was flipping it over, it really has nice density because you have 4 layers of cotton fabric, plus you have, on 3 of those layers, you also have that power mesh. So it's adding some really nice stabilization to the entire project. And we use the power mesh because we want it to stay in the project, right? We don't want it to wash away because we want it to help keep the form of this pouch, because the pouch feels really nice. And now this could be a little clutch. I could put my jewelry in it when I travel. I could put my toiletries in it, right? If I have some little toiletries. Super fun. So I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. If you have any questions, please drop them into the comment box and we will answer them for you. Go out, try and in the hoop project. Like I said, the biggest key is follow those instructions because you don't miss a step. And even I follow them, right? I always make sure because I'm ready to hustle along, right? So follow those instructions, have fun. We would love to see what you make. Please post photos to our Facebook page. We would love to see those things. And happy sewing. We are here live every Tuesday at 10 a.m. with a different How Do I. Have a great day.